Ever since the announcement of a certain coaster concept, the amusement industry hasn't been the same. A coaster type so bold, so epic, that enthusiasts have been clamoring for its release ever since it was announced. A coaster that's fate is so far off, but yet at the same time seems plausible. The coaster I'm referring to is the RMC T-Rex. As you probably already know, the RMC T-Rex is a revolutionary new high-capacity single-rail coaster from RMC, and it is the spiritual successor to the RMC Raptor. Every time a coaster enthusiast thinks of RMC, this project is always in the back of their mind. The RMC T-Rex for years has merely just been a concept, with many enthusiasts obsessing over it year after year, all the while wondering if it would get built at all. Well, it's finally time to answer that question once and for all. In today's video, we are going to dive deep into the background, current state, and future possibilities of the RMC T-Rex. We're going to be looking at everything from rumors to fact so we can decipher the current and future state of this project. So stay tuned as I explain why the future of the RMC T-Rex is not what you think it is. But like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I post brand new videos just like this all the time, and I really appreciate all of the wonderful support that this channel has been getting. But now let's get to the video. So before I explain why the RMC T-Rex is not what you think, we first need to take a look at the detailed origins of this project. It all started back in 2015, when Fred Grubb of RMC revealed an experimental large single-rail piece of track to certain news and media groups throughout the industry. As of then, this was still just a concept, and we didn't know the true scale of this project. After 2016, RMC put the T-Rex model off to the side and solely focused on their Raptors. Their first two Raptors opened in 2018, and there are many more on the way. In 2018, we also learned very intriguing details about the size and scale of the RMC T-Rex project. In 2018, we learned that the RMC T-Rex was capable of being built taller than 500 feet. This was a very important aspect of the project that before 2018 wasn't widely publicized. We also learned that the T-Rex was designed specifically to compete with the B&M and Intamin Giga coasters as well as the Intamin Strata coasters. We didn't hear any more news about the T-Rex until early 2020, and in early 2020 we learned about a rumor that states that RMC has put the T-Rex project on hold for the time being. Apparently, after doing in-depth cost analysis for the track itself, RMC supposedly realized that building a 300 to 500 foot T-Rex was not as profitable as they originally thought. A 500 foot T-Rex could potentially cost more than double the price of a B&M Giga. This obviously isn't profitable. And even if they built a 300 foot version that's cheaper than the other Gigas, the potential profit doesn't outweigh the cost of research and development for the coaster. So the future of the RMC T-Rex looks very mixed. However, there is one more piece to this puzzle that I will talk about in a little bit. So that is the entire history of the RMC T-Rex as we know it. As you can probably see, the exact future of the T-Rex is fairly uncertain, especially considering the fact that RMC could have shelved the project completely. So you may be saying to yourself that we will never see an RMC T-Rex, simply because it might not be in RMC's best interest. However, I don't think that's the case, and I'm willing to bet that we will indeed see an RMC T-Rex in the future, just not how you may think. You see, as of 2019, RMC was the only coaster manufacturer to manufacture single-rail coasters, hence they could take the progress of their new coaster models as fast or as slow as they wanted. Because they didn't have any competition, they didn't see the need to rush the development of the T-Rex. They understood that they had the monopoly of the single-rail coaster and potential buyers would be fine waiting because they didn't have another option. RMC wanted to perfect the Raptor before they even considered making the T-Rex. This gives them credibility in the industry and makes it less risky when the T-Rex does indeed come. But RMC's monopoly on the single-rail coaster changed in 2019. And in 2019, Intamin announced their Hot Racer model. This is basically Intamin's version of the RMC Raptor, but with a twist. Intamin's version would feature a launch. I've talked about this on this channel before, but I believe it will have lasting implications on RMC and specifically the T-Rex. First off, it proves that Intamin is willing to directly compete with RMC while innovating. Intamin didn't have to put a launch on their Hot Racer, but they wanted to distinguish themselves from RMC. Before the hot racer, one of my earliest predictions was that RMC would add a launch to their Raptors, but Intamin came out of nowhere and beat RMC to it. This proves that Intamin isn't scared of invading another company's personal space. And this leads me to believe that Intamin could be developing their own version of the T Rex. Now, why would I think this? Well, first off, there is actual proof that Intamin is developing a single rail track that is larger and stronger than their hot racer. Back when Intamin announced their hot racer, they also announced 3 other projects. They announced the vertical LSM, the Giga Splash, and the Ultra Splash. And you can probably see where I'm heading. If you look at the track for their Giga and Ultra Splash, you can clearly tell that it is a larger version of their hot racer track. Intamin isn't even hiding it. They clearly want us to know that they are single rail coasters. When this was announced, I was very surprised that not many people brought this up. Intamin did actually create a quote-unquote T Rex track, and I would be very surprised if they didn't utilize it in the future. If the Intamin hot racer is a success, I am almost certain that they will introduce a higher capacity version using the new type of track. I don't think it would be a record-breaking 300-foot version. Instead, I think it would be a large-scale version of their hot racer. So how does this affect RMC? Well, first off, there is no doubt in my mind that RMC has not considered this possibility. They know Intamin, and I bet they are prepared. But now we have to answer one of the questions that started it all. Is the RMC TRex scrapped for good, or are we on the verge of a 500-foot single rail coaster in the near future? Well, the answer to that question is kind of in the middle. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it is extremely unlikely that we will ever have an RMC single rail coaster above 500 feet. Like I mentioned earlier, the cost of a 500-foot T-Rex would probably be double the price of a B&M Giga, so I don't think many parks can afford this. Even if they did get the price down to $40 million, only 2 or 3 parks could realistically buy it. So I don't think RMC would spend a ton of money on research and development just to sell 1 or maybe 2 rides. Instead, I think there is a much more likely option, and that is for them to create a Raptor style layout using the T-Rex track. Let me explain. Imagine if Jersey Devil had 2 across seating and was scaled up to be a hypercoaster. If this happened, it would be the perfect ride for large-scale theme parks. It would have the height, the capacity, and the marketability. So I think RMC is going to use the T-Rex track to make amped up versions of their Raptor. I don't think the T-Rex will ever end up being a 500-foot Stratocoaster, but instead I think that it will be one of the best hyper and maybe giga coasters out there. As of now, there are no incentives for the Raptors to go above 150 feet, because as the height increases, so does the needed capacity. I mean, just imagine how long lines would be for a Raptor at Cedar Point. Not that Raptor. And I know many of you are already writing in the comments right now that Six Flags Magic Mountain is rumored to be adding a Raptor, but you have to consider this. The Six Flags Magic Mountain Raptor isn't a true record-breaking ride. It's almost like it's a filler coaster. If the same ride was much larger and became the most popular ride in the park, then the park couldn't handle all the lines and the crowds. So this is where the T-Rex comes in, or more specifically, the T-Rex track itself. I do believe that the T-Rex is going to be larger than the Raptor. I mean, that's obvious, but just not 500 feet. The max height that I could see the T-Rex reaching would be about 300 feet, simply because of the economic reasons. It would compete with the other Giga coasters perfectly. However, I do not think that the T-Rex track will end there. I think that it's very likely that RMC will utilize the track itself for many different projects, including a launch coaster, a wing coaster, and maybe even some type of inverted coaster. The main takeaway from this video is that the main goal of the T-Rex is not to reach extreme heights of 500 feet plus. Instead, I think it is to fill the space where the Raptor cannot reach, such as capacity and, to an extent, height. I do believe RMC is doing this. RMC is definitely utilizing the T-Rex track for different projects. Now all we have to do is wait. So to conclude, I do think RMC is creating the T-Rex, but it isn't what you think. I don't think it will ever become the king of Stratocoasters, but I do think it will be a huge competitor in the hypercoaster, launch coaster, and even the giga coaster market. It's not a record-breaking 500-foot giant coaster. Instead, the track is a tool that will lead to many different developments in the future. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see content just like this all the time. And comment below your thoughts on the future of the RMC T Rex. What do you think it's going to be like? This is the Coaster Josh signing out.